Hey guys, it's Meal Before Me, and I'm back with another in-depth food review and a new look. This time I'm trying out HelloFresh, a food subscription service that delivers step-by-step recipes to your door along with the pre-portioned ingredients to make them. There are well over 24 recipes on the menu put together by their chefs that suit a variety of dietary preferences, and according to their website, it's America's #1 meal kit. Now, I don't know about that, though I will say it's the one I see sponsoring YouTubers the most, which is why I wanted to try it. I want to know if it's actually any good or if people are fudging their reviews to satisfy their sponsor. Obviously, I'm not sponsored, I just want to review the service, so I'm going to walk you through everything from ordering to delivery and cap it off with a taste test in real time. To get started, you choose a plan. There happens to be an active offer for free meals and free shipping while I'm doing this, and I'm pretty sure it's similar to what you'd get by using a YouTuber's discount code. So if you're new to the service, you might as well support one of your favorite creators by using theirs. I don't have one because, again, I'm not sponsored. Clicking View Our Plans brings you to the selection page asking what kind of meals you like. And there are 6 options: meat and veggies, veggie, family-friendly, fit and wholesome, quick and easy, and pescatarian. Now, in my opinion, these descriptions aren't exactly useful. Thankfully, the menu preview provides a brief explanation of what each of these choices means. For example, family-friendly means it includes recipes they think children will like. Note that you'll still have access to their entire slate of recipes, regardless of which one of these options you choose. This step is only used as a guide for which recipes they show you first. I personally have no dietary goals or restrictions beyond there being food I just don't like, so I'm going into this review as open-minded as possible, and I want to try a decent variety of meals, so I'm choosing meat and veggies, because I'm a meat and veggies kind of gal. Next, you choose how many recipes you want to receive per week. It defaults to 3 as the most popular plan, and each choice has its own description. I'm only doing this for 1 week for the sake of this review, and I want to try as many recipes as I can, so I'm going with 6. It then asks if the meal is for 2 or 4 people. Since the ingredients are pre-portioned, I assume this means they'll send you enough to make a meal for around 2 servings or 4. It's just me and myself trying this out, so I'm going with 2. Next, I had to register for an account since I'm new, so I entered my email, chose a password, then entered my mailing address in the next screen. On the right hand, it shows an order summary. As you can see, 6 recipes for 2 people, or 12 servings total, comes to $101.88, which is way more than I'd spend on meals in a week. But it did apply the promo discount, free shipping and free meals, bringing the total all the way down to $47, much more doable. It also provides an estimate for the first delivery date. In this case, it's June 3rd, and I'm placing this order on May 29th, which means it should take about a week. Under the delivery summary, you can choose a later delivery date and provide more detailed delivery instructions from the drop-down list, like which door to bring it to or any access code they may need to know. You can also choose other and enter your own instructions, like "Have a great day." Next, you move on to payment details, where it notes that you'll be charged 4 days prior to the delivery. And I have to say, I'm not sure how I feel about having to enter all of this information before I get to select my meals. Because if I decide not to go through with it, I feel like they'll still have my information to do with what they will. But I'm hopelessly paranoid about how companies handle my data, so maybe that's just me. At any rate, you enter your payment details to reserve your box, and you have the traditional choice of credit or debit card, as well as PayPal, which I think is fantastic considering how many freelancers, small business owners, gig workers, and the like are paid through PayPal. Now for the fun part, selecting meals. You can skip this step and let them choose meals for you, but come on, who doesn't want to customize the box themselves, right? And I really like the fact that because it's being treated like a reservation, I have until midnight tonight to make any changes. One thing I didn't know prior to doing this is that in addition to the menu, there's a HelloFresh market where you can buy individual items to add to your box. It includes anything from soups and sides to snacks and desserts, some that you'd see at the grocery. The price and nutritional values are listed for each item, as well as the recipe, though not all of the market items need to be prepared. Some are pre-made, like the sausage gumbo or breakfast egg bites that you just heat and eat. And others are regular box products like cookies, cereal, or snack bars. I'm spending enough already for something that may or may not suck, so I really don't want to add anything from the market, but for the sake of this review, I'll throw in this chocolate hazelnut cheesecake. It's 2 single-serving cakes for $9, and you can thank me for going that extra mile by liking this video and watching all the way to the end to please the algorithm gods. Now, one thing I'll say is that I couldn't figure out how to get out of the market menu back to the regular meals, so I clicked save thinking it would save my add-on and take me back on its own. Instead, it pre-selected my meals for me and saved the entire order as complete, at which point I freaked out. So I clicked to edit the delivery and freaked out even more when it said I couldn't, which didn't make sense since it said I have until the end of the day to change my selection. But after recovering from my aneurysm, I realized it was only talking about the details of the delivery itself. I could still change the meals by selecting or deselecting them in the menu. Crisis averted. So, getting back to the menu, there's a different assortment of meals available each week. That means you may not see the same recipes I have when you build a kit yourself. I wanted to give HelloFresh the best chance of impressing me while also stepping outside of my comfort zone, because why do something different if it's still going to be the same, right? So I decided to pick 4 meals that definitely sound like something I'd make, one that I'd be on the fence about, and one that I'd never make otherwise, bringing me to my total of 6. I also didn't want to waste this experience on things that are generally cheap and filling, like pasta, bread, and rice. I wanted to get the biggest bang for my buck, which meant meat and veggies. Sadly, that's where my first disappointment came in. There were 32 recipes to choose from, which is great, but a lot of them fell into categories I wanted to avoid. Sandwiches, flatbreads, rice bowls, noodles, meals that were veggie only. If I wanted beef, which is my protein of choice, that was out of the question, unless I was willing to pay an extra $10 per serving for one of the recipes that included it. Not counting the few with ground beef like the ragu, or where you can add ground beef for a small fee like with the fresco bowl. And good luck if you don't like pork. I don't mind eating it, but beef and chicken are my mainstays, so I wasn't thrilled that pork was stealing the show. That said, like I mentioned earlier, the menu is different each week, and you do have the option to skip a week if you don't like the assortment being offered. I want to get this review done, so I didn't skip anything. I worked with what I got. So my final picks were creamy caramelized onion meatloaves, Steakhouse-Style pork chops, chicken sausage Spinach-Ricotta ravioli, sheet pan pork with creamy mustard, Louisiana-Style tilapia, and orchard chicken spinach salad. And remember, each of those 6 recipes should come with enough pre-portioned ingredients for 2 servings, since that's the plan I chose. With that, I have 2 big takeaways from this process before we get to the unboxing and the taste test done by future me. Number 1, be mindful when making your selection, because there are premium recipes in the list with an added cost, like this beef tenderloin with balsamic tomatoes. Some recipes also offer add-ons like soup and dessert, and their price is also per serving. Number 2, make sure you look at the recipe for the meals you choose, because some staple ingredients aren't included in the delivery, and you don't want to be stuck without them. For example, the onion meatloaf I chose won't include oil, butter, salt, pepper, or sugar. Now I know to have that on hand. It also tells you which utensils you'll need, like pots, peelers, or sheet pans. I recommend clicking at the bottom of each meal to see the full recipe with measurements and detailed steps so you can get an idea of what to expect. Because if you don't cook much, or at all, and you want to give HelloFresh a try to have a more guided experience, the worst thing you can do is come unprepared. It'll make the process feel more time-consuming, and you might get frustrated. Take it from someone who loves to cook but is also very lazy about it. Having all of your tools and ingredients ready to go makes for a more confident, enjoyable meal. So, now that the order is set to forget, let's pass things off to future me for the unboxing. Like I said, I placed the order on May 29th and the delivery date was June 3rd, but the box shipped on the 1st and arrived June 2nd. Don't get me wrong, I love when a delivery gets here sooner than expected, but not food that needs to be refrigerated. I was given a tracking number when the box shipped, but I received no notifications via text or email that the box was on its way or that it had been delivered. And I guess whoever delivered it didn't bother to ring or knock. Either that or I was in a coma. So I stepped out of my house at 11 p.m. to toss out the trash, only to find the box sitting on my doorstep. I had no idea how long it'd been there, so I checked the tracking and it said it was delivered shortly after 5. That's 6 hours, folks. Thank goodness it was packed with ice. So for the sake of keeping your delivery fresh, I recommend enabling any notifications you can and taking a peek at tracking close to the delivery date. Also, in case you're wondering, it was delivered by CDL. As for the box itself, it was a hefty boy, about 13 inches wide and deep and 16 inches tall. It wasn't taped all that great, but it didn't look damaged or tampered with, and like we tell our youth, it's what's inside that counts. There was foil bubble wrap insulation similar to Daily Harvest. If you want to check out my review of that service, I'll link to it, but I assume they all use something like this. The inserts included a few cards to hand out to friends and family for a free box, a welcome brochure, special offers from their partners like Naked Wines, some nonsense with minions all over it about entering to win a prize, and a handy printout of each of my recipes. Excuse my nails, by the way. I work with my hands, so they break a lot. Now, full disclosure, they did send me the wrong printout for one of the recipes. Instead of the chicken sausage and spinach ricotta ravioli, they sent me the sheet for kickin' Cajun stuffed peppers. It's not a huge deal since I can download the correct recipe from the website, but I was worried that they sent me the wrong ingredients too. Thankfully, that was right. Speaking of ingredients, let's get to those. And remember that here at Meal Before Me, I pride myself in giving you details in my reviews that other channels don't. When I say in depth, I mean in depth. So again, if you're finding this useful, please like the video. It helps get it shown to other people, and the better my videos do, the more I can bring to you. Back to the box, the contents were spread out in brown label bags taped shut, and underneath were large ice packs and meat for extra protection from the heat. There were 1 or 2 wet spots on the bags, but it was hard to tell if something frozen had started to thaw or if there was a spill. Since I had to head out, I tossed everything in the fridge, but it's now the next day, so I'm pulling it all back out to get this rolling. I'm going to break everything down by recipe to make sure nothing's missing. Beyond that, what I'm looking at is the general quality of the ingredients and how much they weigh, so I can compare that to the weight stated on the site. I'll be using a postal scale because that's what I've got, and eyeballing the rest. Recipe 1 is the creamy caramelized onion meatloaves. There should be carrots, zucchini, ground beef, panko breadcrumbs, garlic powder, an onion, parsley, cream cheese, chicken stock, and sumac. Everything was there, and the weights look good, keeping in mind that I'm not taking the plastic packaging into account. The 10-ounce ground beef was 10.5 ounces, and the 12-ounce carrots were roughly 13.8 ounces. I'll let you know if anything comes up short. So far, so good. Recipe 2 is the Steakhouse-Style pork chops. There should be potatoes, an onion, a lemon, sour cream, pork chops, steak spice, beef stock, and broccoli. Again, nothing was missing, and the weight seemed fine. The 10-ounce chops were 10.5 ounces, the 8 ounces of broccoli was spot on at 8.2 ounces, and the 12 ounces of potatoes were 17 ounces, which is great because I love potatoes. Recipe 3 is the chicken sausage and spinach ricotta ravioli. There should be scallions, grape tomatoes, lemon, chicken sausage mix, Italian seasoning, spinach and ricotta ravioli, chicken stock, and sour cream. The 4-ounce tomatoes were 4.9 ounces, the 9-ounce chicken sausage was about 9.2, and the 9-ounce ravioli was 9.7 ounces. Recipe 4 is the sheet pan with creamy mustard. There should be potatoes, carrots, a red onion, rosemary, an apple, seasoning, pork tenderloin, mayo, honey, and Dijon mustard. As you can see, the wet spot I mentioned in the unboxing was from a burst mustard packet, which is a shame, but not the end of the world. They still get points off for it though. Other than that, everything was there and the weights were similar to the others. The 12-ounce potatoes were about 13.2 ounces, the 6-ounce carrots were 7.4 ounces, and the 10-ounce tenderloin was actually 12 ounces. Recipe 5 is the Louisiana-Style tilapia. It should have potatoes, scallions, a chili pepper, a carrot, mayo, Dijon mustard, sour cream, white wine vinegar, shredded red cabbage, tilapia, Old Bay seasoning, panko breadcrumbs, and cornstarch. Unlike the other meats, the tilapia came in its own bag, not just plastic, and I had it in the freezer. So for this recipe, everything was there and all the weights were again pretty spot on. Recipe 6 is the orchard chicken spinach salad. It should have chicken cutlets, sweet potato, sweet and smoky barbecue seasoning, spinach, honey Dijon mustard, and apple and pecans, or pecans, depending on how you want to say it. Everything was good to go here too, and the 5 ounces of spinach was exactly 5 ounces. And for the last thing, the market item I added, 2 chocolate hazelnut cheesecakes. Each one is a single serving at 4 ounces. One weighed 4.9 ounces and the other 5.1. Overall, I was happy with all the ingredients and the way they were packaged. In all honesty, I wanted to weigh the important stuff because I saw a few customer complaints that they were getting shortchanged. Nothing I got fell short of what it stated on the website, but it may be something to keep an eye on. Now that you know how the process works from the website to your door, it's time to answer the important question: how does it taste? And I'm dying to find out. To the table! Since I'm preparing these meals myself, there's no packaging for the finished product, so to help you visualize how much food you're getting, I'll be using the same square dinner plate for every dish. It's 11 inches corner to corner. You know this isn't a cooking channel, so I'm not shooting any footage of me whipping these things up. We're going straight to the tasting, though I'll let you know if I had any issues along the way. I'll be following all of the recipes as is, only correcting for food safety if anything. No substitutions or additions, because if I change things, then it's not the same recipe and the review won't be as accurate. As always, I'm rating these meals on a scale from 1 to 5 for smell, flavor, texture, and repeatability, keeping in mind that I'm the one who prepared it. Based on the plan I chose, each recipe will make 2 servings, but I'll only be plating 1 serving so you can decide if it's enough food for you. Alright, first up we have the creamy caramelized onion meatloaves with sumac roasted veggies. Pretty good. Now again, this is 1/2 of what I made because this is 1 serving. I am really liking how this looks, and hopefully it's good because this is my dinner. I'm gonna go into the meatloaf first. And it actually was very tender. It didn't look like it was, or I don't know if you can see, it's just that because of how I'm holding it, I didn't want to drop it. But I'm gonna do the meatloaf first with some of the sauce. Get a little bit of parsley in there. Then I'm gonna taste the veggies. Let's do this. All right. Oh, that's good. I've never used cream cheese in a sauce before, but oh yeah. All right, now let's see the sumac vegetables. We'll just go with this. I don't know if this is one of those situations where I'm supposed to be able to like really taste whatever the sumac is doing, but again, because I don't know what sumac tastes like on its own. I will say there's a bit of a lemony hint to it, so I'm gonna assume that maybe that's coming from the sumac. That meatloaf is perfectly cooked. I mean, the recipe said 22 to 25 minutes. Just to be consistent for all of these, I'm going to use whatever the max time is. So I did it for 25 minutes, took it out exactly after that, and it's fine. Now, the big question is, since this is one serving, would you consider this to be enough for one person? I would. I mean, I could eat 2 servings and call that a meal, but I don't have to. Now, I will say that I feel like the recipe was a little bit misleading in terms of the images, because it said to slice the onions thin and cook them until they're brown and soft, about 6 to 9 minutes. But the picture that it showed, I just know from experience, to get onions that are caramelized that much, like to that deep, rich brown, that's not a 6 to 9 minute affair. But I did it 6 to 9 minutes. You know, I just went according to their recipe, but they were completely softened and they're still delicious. So, you know what? I'm gonna say I'm very impressed. This tastes like a meal I would just make on my own, 100%. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 for flavor. I'm also going to give it a 5 out of 5 for texture because everything is perfectly cooked. As far as the smell, like it has this really rich, savory, beefy smell. I'm going to say that most of that is coming from that beef stock concentrate. So, oh God. 5 out of 5 for smell. So in case you can guess, my rating for repeatability, as in would I eat this again, is absolutely. But on to the next one. All right, this time we've got the Louisiana-Style tilapia with potato wedges, red cabbage slaw, and spicy remoulade. Oh, bam! Look at that. With the remaining scallions on top. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I was a little bit concerned about this one because I don't like tilapia and I also don't like spicy food. So the fact that it had a pepper in it made me think, okay, this may or may not go well, but we're gonna find out right now. I guess we don't need to eat the potatoes, right? Like everyone knows what potatoes taste like, they're good. I'm going to try the slaw first. Let's see how that tastes. Okay, it's good, but I will say this, it's not better than my coleslaw. And I guess for me, what's tipping the scale is that the recipe says to put a little tiny bit of the pepper in that. And I think that's what's throwing me off. It's the heat. Like if anything, I feel like slaw is supposed to combat heat. So it's still tasty. And I think, if you're somebody who just likes to have a little tiny bit of kick in everything you eat, you may like that. For me, I think I just prefer my regular coleslaw. I also don't know if the scallions really added anything to it that I feel like it needed. It is seasoned well otherwise, but of course, like the salt and pepper you're doing to taste. Yeah, I think it could do without the pepper, but here's for the star of the show. I want to see what this remoulade tastes like. That's a sauce that I've never made before. So I don't know how authentic it is to whatever it's supposed to be, and I don't care. What I care about is, does it taste good? So first I'm actually gonna taste a piece of the tilapia with nothing else, just so I can see, get an idea, I guess, of what the little crust tastes like. Because whenever I batter things, I don't add cornstarch. This is the first time I've ever done that. So this might be interesting. Oh yeah, that's a light and airy crunch. Oh, that's good. Get a gander at that goose. And you can look at that, like it's perfectly cooked through. Now, let's go ahead. Got some of the remoulade on here. Let's taste. Yeah, that sauce is really, really good. Like that's something that I could just see myself making and just putting on anything. I would say if you wanted to like recreate this recipe, you don't need the pepper, right? But wow, for smell, I'm probably gonna give it a 4 out of 5. I would give it a 5 because it's really delicious. It has that kind of like summer barbecue smell, probably because of the slaw. but there's also a little bit of like swamp funkiness smell to it, and that's why I took off a point, and I'm guessing that's because of the tilapia. Then I would say like the texture is perfect, the texture of everything. And yes, I cooked it, but the important thing is that, you know, I wanted to be able to test that the chefs over at HelloFresh know what they're doing. And I'd say they do, because this kind of knocked it out of the park. Like, it was cooked to perfection to their specifications. So I'm gonna give it a 5 for texture. For flavor, I'm gonna give it a 4. Again, I'm taking 1 point off just because of the coleslaw. It just doesn't need heat. I don't know why you would do that. And of course, the most important one, repeatability. Would I eat this again? Absolutely. Like, this is delicious. So you know what? We're batting 1,000 with HelloFresh so far. I don't know if it's cheating because I'm the one cooking it again. You know, I guess your mileage may vary if you can't follow instructions, but I think so far so good. Okay, next we have the Orchard Chicken Spinach Salad. Whee! And actually, this one looks really nice. I was excited for this because I love anything to do with apples and I love pecans. Now this came with a packet of honey Dijon mustard dressing from Marzetti or whatever the brand is. I can tell you right out of the gate, I wish that it had more than one packet, but it's still enough for me to get the overall flavor. So we shall see how this tastes, but it looks good. Let's not waste any more time. I'm gonna go with the spinach just so I can taste what the whatever tastes like. The whatever, as in the dressing. That's nice. I mean, I will say that for something like this, you know, that has like some savory elements, like it has the, you know, the sweet potato and the pecans, and of course the chicken with this barbecue kind of seasoning on it, I probably would have preferred a dressing that was like fruity, because like I said, I like vinaigrettes. So I just feel like that little bit of citrus would have helped this, but then again, it does have the apples. So I think that's what's gonna balance it out, but the honey Dijon mustard is good. Now we're just going to taste a little bit of the sweet potato. Of course that was good, because it's always good at sweet potatoes, and sweet potatoes are good. So there's not much to say about that. I did have to toss a little bit of the barbecue seasoning on it before roasting it, but I don't taste that. Whoops, I just flipped something onto the table. The pecans, there were so few, I don't even think it's going to have the impact it would if there were more. I do like pecans on my salad, but I prefer them candied. Candied pecans, candied walnuts. Again, I just like to have that bit of sweetness. I could have just done without the pecans is my point. Of course, the apple is good because I love apples. And this was actually really fresh and crisp and tasty, pretty sweet. But the star of the show is this chicken with the barbecue. It was like sweet and smoky, I think. It's very juicy. I'm hoping you can see all of that. I'm gonna have that by itself, and then I'm gonna try to, like, look at all the juice coming off the bottom. And then I'm gonna try to have a bite that has everything, but I'm gonna try to eat this whole thing. Oh man, that's exactly the taste that I want for that. A nice dry rub kind of crust sort of thing going on. Oh, it's delicious. And you know, again, I hope I don't have to keep repeating that I'm plating one serving. So I basically just took 1/2 of everything and put it on here. Let's get to the ratings, I guess. For smell, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5 because it smells like the seasoning, really, which is not that pleasant of a smell. It's, you know, barbecue stuff to me usually tastes better than it smells. I feel like if the sweetness of the apples came through more, like that fresh, crisp apple smell that you get kind of when you're having apple pie or something like that, then maybe I would have given it higher. But that's fine, you know, you're not gonna be smelling it all day, right? You're not eating it through your nose. So texture, 5 out of 5. Flavor, all of it is delicious. The problem is that it doesn't come together in a way that I feel is so unique that, you know, you couldn't have, I guess, foregone some of these ingredients, you know? So it's not that it doesn't taste fantastic, it does, and it's worthy of the 5. I was gonna take off the point just for that, but you know what? I'm not gonna take the point off. It tastes great, 5 out of 5, perfect. And then of course, repeatability. Would I eat this again? Definitely. In fact, I would eat it again right now, which is why I keep eating it. But we need to move on. All right, next up we've got the Steakhouse-Style pork chops. Da-na-na-na. And this one called for having lemon wedges on the side. I don't know why. That's not something I would typically eat with my pork chops or anything, with my meal in general. I don't just sit there and eat lemons, but you know what? I'm gonna try it today. I'm gonna just have a little bite of a lemon with whatever else I'm eating, just to see if it does anything. I was supposed to zest the lemon and, you know, toss the broccoli with the zest. And I don't know, that lemon had armor for skin. I will say that I feel like this recipe, the cooking times and everything were good, because I feel like the pork came out perfectly to temperature. And then we've got the sauce, which I already kind of assume is probably gonna be good because it's onions, sour cream, and like this concentrated beef stock. But we're not gonna know until I taste it, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's stop wasting so much time. All right, I'm going to go with, again, skipping the potatoes because we all know that potatoes are good. And this particular recipe, I didn't toss it in any seasoning or anything. It's just roasted potatoes. So I'm gonna go with the broccoli first with a little piece of the lemon zest because I hate broccoli. So, you know, we started at the bottom and now you're here, right? As expected, that lemon, don't want it there. I mean, it does add brightness to it, but I don't like that. That's a personal preference thing. Now we're going to try the star, which is the pork chop. And let's see if I can open this up so you can actually see in there. You can see how juicy that is. And this had what they called a bold and savory steak spice that I just did a dry rub on that and then I cooked it in the pan. Oh yeah, I think that's like a good halfway point between like a steakhouse and a backyard grill kind of thing. It's definitely got a little bit of smokiness to it. You can really see, look at all that moisture. I mean, some of that is from the sauce, but a lot of it was actually just from the pork. Gotta have a little potato to wash down the meat. Whatever the steak spice is, you could definitely just go grab some McCormick's or something. And I think you'll get the same impact. So it doesn't taste like it has any, you know, unique twist on the blend. For no reason whatsoever, I'm going to try a bit of the pork and then bite into a wedge of lemon. Okay. The pork has entered the mouth. Oh, wow. Oh God. Boy, that's interesting. Let's do a little drizzle because it's weird. It like gave it this strange pop of like, again, brightness, I guess. I know that's probably an overused word for what citrus adds to a dish, but that's all I could think of. I do like lemons. I like to eat them with salt. I also like to eat them with sugar. Did it make it better? I don't know, but it made the sauce different. Adding a little bit of that lemon to it, I feel that elevated it to something that would make someone think it was more complicated of a sauce than it is, if that makes sense. So getting to the ratings, for smell, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 as long as I stay away from the broccoli side because the broccoli stank. Texture, 5 out of 5. Everything was cooked perfectly. Good, yeah, 5 out of 5 for texture. And as far as repeatability, I'm gonna say no, because I'm rating it according to the recipe as is. And the recipe as is calls for this big hunk of broccoli, and that's been tossed in lemon zest on top of that, which did not do anything for it extra either. It did something extra for the pork. It didn't do anything for the broccoli. That's the only reason I would say no. Now, would I eat the pork with this sauce again? Absolutely. But I would not get this like arrangement of recipe again, just because I feel like I'm sitting here forcing myself to eat the broccoli, and I don't like that. But overall, I would still say that this was not a miss. That was just a preference thing. If you don't mind broccoli at all, then you're probably gonna say this was a 5. All right, next we've got the Italian chicken sausage and spinach ricotta ravioli. Just gonna slide that in on there. But look at this, it's actually kind of pretty. But you know what, this is not about prettiness, this is about how it tastes. So we're just gonna get straight to the tasting for this one. I'm going to try one of these ravioli things first, just because they came, pre-packaged. So I wanna see what they taste like on their own. I'm gonna get a little bit of the sauce still, but I don't wanna eat it with any of the chicken sausage. So let's see how this ravioli is. Wow. Oh my God, it's so thick and rich and creamy. And it's got like a little tinge of sweetness to it. I would just buy that ravioli alone. So I already know there's no way that the Italian chicken sausage could possibly mess that up. But let's not talk too soon here. I'm gonna get some of the chicken sausage and the tomatoes first, just taste that by itself. I would normally say that that's got like a lot of herby flavor, like almost too much. But the fact that I know that this ravioli is as sweet as it is and as rich as it is, I don't know, like the herbiness of the meat is going to somehow balance that out. And there's a little bit of pepperiness there. So now I will have them together. But I already know it's going to be good because, my God, that ravioli by itself is fantastic. That's so good. I'm not normally a fan of tomatoes unless it's in something like this. So it can really, you know, impart its flavor to the dish, but more importantly, so the dish can impart its flavor to the tomatoes. Oh, this is fantastic. But yeah, this is good. So you know what? We're gonna get right to the ranking because this is gonna be my dinner tonight. For smell, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. It has a buttery, saucy kind of smell, which is really pleasant. It's not overpowering. It smells like you're gonna eat something rich. So yeah, 4 out of 5. For texture, perfect, 5 out of 5. The ravioli was perfectly cooked. Again, I did everything to the, you know, recipe specifications here, and I feel like it was spot on. 5 out of 5 for flavor. It was a lot of herbs, like a lot of Italian seasoning that went into this that would have been more overpowering if not for that sweet richness of the ricotta. So putting those two things together, like they work well, that I'm not going to take any points off for the chicken sausage, I think being a little bit overpowering. So 5 out of 5 for flavor. So I guess you know what I'm going to say. For repeatability, would I eat it again? Absolutely, positively. This is fantastic. I just, you know, I gotta go look up now because I don't know if I still have the package anywhere to see what brand this ravioli was, because I would recommend just buying this. But we're not done yet. On to the next. Up next is the sheet pan pork. Unfortunately, my camera decided to overwrite the footage of me tasting this one. So I don't have it. Thank goodness I took pictures so I can at least show you that. And I still have the audio from my tasting so I can give you my thoughts. Maybe it was fate that this file got wiped from memory because I wanted to wipe this recipe from my memory. It was absolutely my least favorite, but here's the audio from that tasting. So my issue with this recipe is that we used to cook pork to something closer to beef and chicken or whatever it was, maybe 160, 165 degrees. But that, of course, often leads to it being very dry. So it was determined, I don't remember when, that the updated food safety standard for pork should be 145 degrees. So I bring this up because following this recipe, the pork shot way up past 145 degrees into the territory of what it used to be, which is why, in case you can't tell, like it's, you know, cooked, it's fully cooked, but it's very dry. Like it's still tender. I mean, it's not so dry that I feel like I'd be eating paper. It's just drier than it should be. So like I said, this is like the first recipe I've done so far that I kind of question. I feel like it was a bit aggressive in general because it was 450 degrees. So I feel like even if you look at the vegetables, like the onions, some of them just didn't make it. Some of them just disintegrated and they're gone and they're dead. RIP, I had a funeral for them. But anyway, another part of this one was this like little creamy mustard sauce, which was just mayo, honey, and Dijon mustard. And then you salt and pepper it to taste. And this is supposed to serve as a dipping sauce. So I'm gonna try everything individually. It had something called a fry seasoning. I don't know what was in that blend, but I was supposed to toss the vegetables with that before roasting it, as well as coat the pork. It's not coming through as anything interesting or unique. It just tastes, again, like the other recipes, like tasty roasted vegetables. The pork definitely, I think, is overcooked. So it's not like, oh, it's bone dry. It's not like that. It's just drier than it would have been if I just cooked it to temp. Whatever that fry seasoning is, though, I'm going to tell you right out of the gate, I don't know what's in that. I don't taste anything distinct or unique. And with the pork, it's very, I think, relatively bland compared to everything else. So I'm going to try now the honey mustard cream, okay? And that's just supposed to be a dipping sauce. It's going to be extra special. That honey mustard will absolve all kinds of pork sins. So that's definitely going to be the saving grace of this recipe. This is where the flavor comes in. I would say for smell, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. You know, it just smells like food. Texture, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 because a lot of the stuff, just like I said, the meat I know is a little bit overcooked. I don't feel like the vegetables are in that sweet spot that I like them to be in, but the apple, I don't think I like that. I think I honestly would rather have left the apple out and just put the apple on top so it would be nice, fresh apple instead of roasting it to hell and back, where now it's almost like the outside of it has become like when you slice open an orange and it's got like the white pulp or whatever around it, and apples don't deserve that. So I definitely think if I were to make this again, I would just not put the apples in with it. And the apples went in at the same time as the pork, by the way, not from the very beginning. The vegetables and everything cooked by themselves for 10 minutes. Flavor, I'm gonna give this the lowest. I'm gonna say 3 out of 5. And I guess that brings me to repeatability. Would I eat it again? The answer is no, not in this iteration, not with this kind of recipe. On to next. And last but not least, because a meal is not a meal without dessert, the chocolate hazelnut cheesecake. Shweesh! Now again, I didn't have to prepare this. It came like this. It was frozen. Said you can keep it frozen and let it thaw, or just refrigerate it and eat it right out of that. So that's what I did. Again, it's 4 ounces, and I got 2 of these for, what was it, 10 bucks? Who knows? Let's open it up. Oh, look at that. You can see how deep that is. Well, you know what? Let's just dig into it, right? Let me get this real close so you can see the texture. Ooh. Look at that light, fluffy texture. Oh, all right. Bottoms up. I mean, what is there to say about cheesecake, right? If you like cheesecake, you'll like this. I will say that even though I really like chocolate hazelnut flavored things, I don't really think it's doing anything for the cheesecake necessarily. It tastes really good, but something about it makes it taste almost like a really creamy, nicely whipped pudding instead of cheesecake. I don't know, maybe it's because like there's not as much of that tang that you get from just plain cheesecake in there. Maybe it's being overpowered by the chocolate and the hazelnut. Oh, and there's also a little crust on the bottom. Let's see if I can get some of that out so you can see it. It's not a thick crust, but it exists, so you can see sort of down inside of there. That tastes really good. It's a nice change in texture. That crust gave it that extra thing that it needed. It smells almost like a chocolate, like a rich chocolate cake. And it's a really pleasant smell. It doesn't smell like what it tastes like. And it's just really nice. So I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 5 for whiff. Texture is very good. Don't be thrown off by the fact that I said it reminds me a little bit of a nicely whipped pudding. That was more about like, I guess the aftertaste of the flavor. The texture itself is very much cheesecake. Yeah, it has that creaminess, but it still has a little bit of bite to it. So good. 5 out of 5 for texture. Flavor, I'm on the fence. Like I want to give it a 5 because it's delicious, but would it be more delicious if it were a different flavor? I feel like I should leave room because of that. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 for flavor. And then of course, repeatability. Would I eat this again? I definitely would, but would I actually go and spend that much on this little? I think I would only ever do that if I were eating out somewhere. Either way, you can't go wrong with this. Yes, I would absolutely eat this again. And you can see how thick it is, that none of it is flying off the spoon. So that was a look at HelloFresh. And I want to say up front that even with the discount, the service is a bit overpriced. But to be fair, that's true for every delivery service compared to going to the grocery store, so I won't fault them too much for that. What's important is if you're getting value for the dollar, and I have nothing negative to say. The ingredients were fresh, the recipes were accurate as far as temperatures and time, and the meals were great. The market items are also a neat little addition. So if you're fine with the price and you don't mind cooking or you want to learn, I'd fully recommend this service. It sucks that none of these meal kit companies allow you to buy one box and be done with it instead of having a subscription, but HelloFresh at least lets you pause or cancel the subscription at any time. I do want to mention one last thing, even though I didn't deal with it personally. Customers have pointed out that you can't use a gift card with offers or alongside credits, something like that, so a discount may not apply depending on how you're paying for it. I'm not 100% on that, so if you're considering getting a gift card or gifting someone a box, make sure you check out the policies around it first. You can check out more about this video in the description or check out something new, and subscribe if you like my style of food reviews. Thanks so much for watching MBM, and I'll see you snackies when I'm backies.